Hello and welcome to this bite-sized Chief Examiner feedback session for Year 2 Health Occupational Specialisms. In this session we review examiner insights across all 5 occupational specialisms from the Summer 25 series. We'll look at each assignment in turn, identify strengths, common pitfalls and strategies you can take forward into teaching and assessment preparation. This session is organised by assignment, not by specialism. This way we can compare performance across all of the 5 pathways. We'll begin with assignment 1, then move through to 2A, 2B and finishing with assignment 3, before closing with cross-cutting themes and practical teaching strategies. So in the following analysis you will see RAG rating. RAG shows where performance sits by task. Green means strengths the examiner sees repeatedly, amber means the work is partial, meets the brief but lacks justification or evidence, and red marks recurring weaknesses. We code the examiner's comments and normalise each bar to 100% so sections are comparable. Don't read it as marks, use it as a roadmap. Shrink ambers with quick wins like one statistic and a reference, reduce reds by using evaluation in scaffolds, and rerun the RAG after changes to check you're moving colour from amber to red into green. So let's begin with assignment 1. So assignment 1 assesses underpinning knowledge and its application. While each pathway frames this differently, the core expectation is the same. Students must not only recall key knowledge, but also apply it to authentic healthcare context. Examiners consistently report stronger recall than application, with many students struggling to link theory to the practical scenarios they were presented with. This slide shows assignment 1 case study across the 5 Health OS pathways. So each bar represents the balance of strengths and challenges across the tasks. So adult nursing and mental health show the strongest balance with clear tilt towards secure performance. Midwifery follows closely with good performance overall, but some variation where justification and time management were weaker. Children and young people sit in the middle with solid work on parental engagement and safeguarding, but weaker procedural detail and documentation holding learners back. Therapy team shows the highest proportion of responses in the developing category, not unsafe practices, but reflecting underdeveloped evaluative writing and less prioritisation of goals. Overall, the picture is of competent performance with green leading, and the key opportunity is to shift more of the amber work into green through stronger justification, clear evaluation and more consistent linkage between evidence and the care or support plans. So let's look at this in a bit more detail. This table gives the why behind those bars. So adult nursing, the strength is thorough initial assessment and person-centred planning. Amber comes from light evaluation and rationales. We need tighter why this, why now for sequencing and outcomes. Children and young people, the strength in parent-carer collaboration and safeguarding. Ambers and reds are mainly procedural specifics such as timing, safety checks and documentation consistency. For mental health, clear S-bar communication is a standout where marked drop is goal quality, goals are not consistently smart, and thin justification behind recommendations. For midwifery, strong risk identification and use of care pathway referrals. Amber reflects variable justification of guidance and time management on later questions. Evaluation of impact can be tighter. For therapy teams, appropriate use of functional measures like Barthel and safe intent. The limiter is evaluative commentary and prioritisation of goals. Data aren't consistently turned into a ranked, reasoned plan. So to strengthen assignment 1 performance, teaching should blend knowledge recall with application. Case studies are an effective way to do this. Scaffold writing frames can push learners beyond recall into explanation and reasoning. interleaving theory with practical scenarios and encouraging peer reviews will also help students to spot gaps in their own application. So now let's explore assignment 2A. So assignment 2A is a shared task across all occupational specialism. It requires learners to plan, prepare and demonstrate underpinning knowledge in action. Examiners noted that the recall of key procedures was generally secure, but application to context and depth of justification varied across learners. So this graph shows assignment 2A part 1, support healthcare, broken down into its 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, physiological measurements and recording GP notes, is where performance was strongest. Learners were generally safe and competent with equipment use and recording. Scenario 2, moving handling with a risk assessment, was more mixed. Some learners carried out this transfer safely, but a common slip was beginning the move before completing or updating the risk assessment. Scenario 3, responding to a fall and cleaning a blood spillage, proved the most challenging. Although many showed good duty of care, weaker performance came from errors with PPE, order, spill kit use and unnecessary first aid. So the overall picture is strong core skills in physiological measurements, but a need to tighten up risk assessment sequencing and the consistency of infection control routines in scenario 2 and 3. So this table again will give a bit more detail behind the graph. So for scenario 1, the strengths were those safe practical techniques and correct equipment use, with learners often observing full timings and double checking results. Where marks dropped was in linking results to previous records and giving context when writing GP notes. For scenario 2, good practice was clear instructions to a colleague and appropriate duty of care. However, many forgot to complete the risk assessment before attempting the transfer or failed to amend it afterwards. Infection control steps were also inconsistent. For scenario 3, the strongest learners reassured the patients and used the full spill kit appropriately. Weaker candidates either struggled with the PPE removal sequence, used the kit incorrectly, or attempted interventions outside the brief. So taken together, assignment 2 highlighted secure baseline competence but points to specific procedural weaknesses that, if addressed, would move more of the amber work into green. So to support development, embed explain as you go drills, so students verbalise reasoning as they act. Roleplay with peers as assessors can strengthen escalation decisions. Use structured templates for documentation practice. In simulations, add infection control checkpoints. And finally, integrate activities that require learners to consider the patient or service user perspective to improve contextualisation. Now we move on to assignment 2B. So assignment 2B is the pathway specific practical assessment. Here learners demonstrate specialist technical skills in realistic context. Examiners focused on technical accuracy, safety and sequencing and professional communication. This task provided clear evidence of occupational readiness but also highlighted where training needs to deepen. So, like assignment 1, this graph shows the aggregated results for assignment 2B across the 5 health OS pathways. Adult nursing and midwifery lean mostly to secure performance with safe practice and confident use of procedures. Mental health shows strength in communication but more mixed performance in setting and justifying goals. Children and young people sit in the middle with good safeguarding and family engagement balanced against weaker procedural detail and documentation. Therapy team has the highest proportion of amber, where functional measures were used but evaluative writing and goal prioritisation were less accurate or secure. So overall, learners can perform the task safely, but stronger documentation, justification and evaluative writing would move much of this amber performance into green. So this table explains the pattern behind the averages. So adult nursing candidates were safe and competent procedurally, but escalation and evaluation often lack depth. Children and young people learners engaged well with families in safeguarding, but procedural checks and record keeping let them down. And the similar pattern as before in mental health, communication through SBAR and de-escalation was strong, but goals weren't always smart and recommendations lacked rationale. Midwifery candidates identified risks accurately and made referrals confidently, but justification was uneven and time management weaker in longer responses. And therapy teams used functional data well, but evaluation was weak and goals weren't prioritised. So across all 5, consistent messages, safe baseline practices in place, but to lift more performance to green, learners need to demonstrate why decisions made, how they're recorded, and what the outcome should be. So to build confidence, assignment 2B, use step-by-step checklists during practice to reinforce technical accuracy. In role plays, add stop and explain checkpoints where learners must justify their actions. Scaffold communication through SBAR or similar models. Give learners timed resequencing tasks to improve fluency under pressure, and always model professional behaviours through using reflective debriefs to highlight what was done well and what could be improved. So moving on to the final assessment, assignment 3. So assignment 3 is the professional discussion, common to all occupational specialism. The aim is for learners to reflect on their practice, justify their decisions, and connect theory to workplace experience. Examiners focus on the depth of reflection, how well learners used evidence-based reasoning, and the professionalism of their communication. So this chart again shows the aggregated outcomes for assignment 3, the professional discussion, across the 5 occupational specialisms. Overall, all OSs show a clear competence baseline, but with much of the performance sitting in amber. Adult and nursing and midwifery lean strongest, with learners confident in describing clinical practice through depth of evaluation was still limited. Children and young people in mental health sat firmly in the middle. Safeguarding awareness and communication were strong, but justification of the actions and the application of frameworks were less consistent. Therapy teams showed the largest amber band, reflecting weaker evaluative commentary and limited prioritisation of goals, even though patient context was generally well understood. The overall message is that learners can communicate clearly and describe practice confidently, but they need to go further in justifying decisions, linking to professional frameworks, and evaluating outcomes to make more responses move from amber into green. So again, let's unpick this a little bit more and using the strengths and weaknesses we saw. So for adult nursing, candidates were generally confident in describing safeguarding, skincare and physiological measurements. Where performance dipped was in providing the rationale behind their decisions and linking results to outcomes. In children and young people, safeguarding awareness and parental collaboration were secure. However, many responses remained generic with limited detail on how to escalate concerns or justify actions. For mental health, communication rapport were strong, with candidates showing empathy and calmness, but weaker candidates didn't apply frameworks or models, leaving their strategies less grounded in evidence. In midwifery, candidates identified risks accurately and could reference guidance. The challenge came in providing consistent justification and in reflecting on the impact of their advice or interventions. And in therapy teams, learners were aware of patient context and equipment needs, yet their weakest area was evaluative writing, evaluation and prioritisation of therapy goals, which kept many responses at amber. So taken together, a picture across all pathways is clear. Communication and descriptive knowledge are secure, but learners need more practice in justification, reflection and evaluation to fully evidence professional competence. To prepare learners, introduce structured reflective models such as Gibbs or Rolfe, scaffold classroom responses with a justify, link, apply framework to encourage depth. Remind learners to draw on multiple placement experiences, not just one. practice mock professional discussions with detailed feedback, and help them build confidence in professional communication styles by modelling and rehearsing formal responses. So finally, let's explore overall trends in cross-cutting themes. Cross-cutting themes explore development areas across the assignments. So the slide brings together the cross-cutting themes for assignment 1 through 3 across all occupational specialisms. So for assignment 1, learners were confident in describing tasks and setting safe patient-centred goals. The challenge was moving beyond description into justification and evaluation, linking outcomes back to evidence. For assignment 2A, the common practical, physiological measurements were competently done and infection control routines were mostly followed. However, sequencing of risk assessments and the correct order for donning and doffing PPE were frequent pitfalls. In assignment 2B, the OS-specific practical tasks, safeguarding and rapport were secure strengths across all pathways, with good procedural competence in referral pathways. Weaknesses were mainly in documentation, SMART goal setting, and evaluative writing. Finally, in assignment 3, the professional discussion, communication was strong and safeguarding awareness clear. But across all OS, candidates were too descriptive and rarely evaluative, with weak reflection and limited reference to professional frameworks. So the consistent message is learners are safe and communicative, but they must develop justification, evaluation and reflection if we want to see more green performance instead of amber. So some further teaching strategies to support you in these cross-cutting themes. Strengthen justification and evaluation. Use because, therefore sentence stems. I chose X because, therefore the outcome will be. Embed mini case study debriefs after each task, each activity. Ask learners to explain why they took each step and what difference it made. Encourage peer reviews of care plans. One learner explains choices, another challenges, what if scenarios. Number 2, improving documentation and record keeping. Run mock chart completions with deliberate errors for learners to spot missing units, dates, signatures. Use dual coding checklists such as icon and word prompts for vital signs, risk assessment or therapy notes. Set gold standard exemplar banks side by side with students' attempt for comparison. Number 3, embedding frameworks and models. So teach learners to name drop frameworks explicitly, e.g. SBAR, Waterloo, Bristol Stool Chart, Barthel Index. Practice role-play Q&A where an assessor asks which framework guided this. Create quick mnemonics for recalling framework components during timed assessments. Sharpening PPE and infection control routines. Introduce PPE relay races, time don and doff practice with peer spotting sequence errors. Integrate video self-reflections. Learners film their PPE sequence and identify missteps. Emphasize rationale alongside routine. Gloves first because contamination risk is highest here. Developing SMART goals and prioritization. Use traffic light prioritization. Learners rank interventions as immediate, red, short-term, amber, or long-term, green. Embed SMART goal writing workshops. Learner turn vague aims, so improve mobility, into SMART outcomes. Apply real-world role plays, so give 3 patient needs, ask learners to justify which to prioritise first. And finally, enhancing reflective depth. Model Gibbs' reflective cycle in quick 3-minute reflections post-tasks. Ask learners to end every discussion with the impact of this action is, and use reflection stems such as this went well because, next time I would. So as we move to the end of today's recording, let's explore how to access continued support in teaching and delivery. So support doesn't stop after today's recording. There's a range of materials available to help you and your learners. Once on the NCFE qualification page, you can find the Chief Exam Report, student exemplar work and downloadable schemes of work with free teaching materials. There are also recorded CPD sessions on our YouTube playlist, which you can revisit at any time, and upcoming events listed on the NCFE T-Level Training Events page. All of these are designed to make your delivery smoother and your learners more confident. Before we finish, we'll really appreciate your feedback on today's recording. You can scan the QR code on the screen or follow the link which is in the description below to complete a very short survey. Your input helps us refine our training and make sure future sessions are as relevant and useful as possible. Thank you for listening to this recording on Chief Examiner and Moderator Insights for the Health Occupational Specialisms. These reports give us a clear lens into learner performance, where they succeed, where they struggle, and how we as educators can make the difference. By applying the strategies we've shared today, you can embed deeper reflection, strengthen technical fluency, and build the professional confidence your learners need. We look forward to continue this journey with you as we support the next generation of health professionals.